In order to create a form from scratch, the first thing we need to do is connect it to a data source. A form can get its data either from a table or a query, and if you choose a query, you can either use a pre-made query that's saved in your navigation pane, or create an embedded query directly inside of the form. Let's begin to create a form that we will refine over the next few movies. So here's the scenario. The Landon Hotel wants a form that will allow them to review the employee data of their executive team. We can find that data here in the employees table, so let's go ahead and create a query that's going to gather the records we want. I'll go up here to the Create tab, and we'll start a new query in Design View. We'll go ahead and add in our Landon Employees table and close the Show Table window. Then I want to add all of the fields from this table down into my query grid. Previously, we've seen a shortcut that we could just double-click on this asterisk character. Let me show you one other way. If you click on the employee ID here and then scroll to the bottom and shift-click on the photo field, then you can click and drag and just drop them down here in the first field, and you'll get all the fields laid out here in the query. Now at this point, let's go ahead and save our query. I'll press the Save icon on the Quick Access toolbar or Control-S on your keyboard, and I'll name this query simply Employees. Now at this point, you might be wondering why we're using a query here if the query is simply returning everything that's in the original table. I like to build my forms off of queries rather than a data table simply because I find that it gives me more flexibility down the road should I decide to incorporate information from related tables or start filtering the records in the query before passing them to the form. So yes, we could build our form off of the table directly and have the same result right now, but by creating a query first, we're laying the groundwork that will support future growth. Let's go ahead and close out this query here, and we'll start working on our form. I'll come over here to the Create tab, and in the Forms group, we'll choose to open a new form in Design View. Next, we need to connect the data source. We can do that in the Property sheet. If you remember your shortcut keys, that's F4 or Alt-Enter. Otherwise, come over here to the Design tab and open up the Property sheet with this button here in the Tools group. We're connecting a data source, so if you guessed that we're going to the Data tab, you are correct. We're going to find the Record Source property here, and using the drop-down list, we can choose our Employees query, which is the one we just created. Incidentally, if you wanted to create an embedded query right here inside of the form, you would use this button over here on the right. It's got that 3 ellipsis dots here that you'd seen before. If you click that, it will jump you into a query editing session. Right now, it shows me that I'm editing the Employees query, which is the one we just attached it to. But if you don't attach a query and then press that button, it'll jump you into a brand new query that will be embedded inside of the form itself. So you will never see that query show up in the navigation pane. When we're done working here, let's just press the X button here to close out the query, and that'll return us back to the form design environment here. So now our form has a record source. This is where the data is going to come from. We need to start adding the data fields into the actual form itself. In order to do that, I will close the Property sheet, and then we'll come back to the Design tab, and there's another button here called Add Existing Fields. Let's go ahead and click that to toggle on that window here. This pane displays all of the fields that we've made available through the linked query that we just built. We can get these out of here just by clicking and dragging, or I could do the same thing I did a moment ago. I can click on the first one, shift-click on the photo field, and then just click and drag all of them off at one time, and we'll just drop them here into our form. Notice that all of these fields have an associated text box area here and the label that comes along for the ride. The bio field, which is a long data type, gets a larger box here, but we also get a photo field, which is going to be represented here with the photo. At any point in time, we can switch our view into Form View to see what this looks like with data. So you can see that this is the basic layout that we've got going. We've got small image here, and then we've got the truncated bio information here, and then everything's just kind of stacked up on top. So let's go back and switch our view back into Design View. Now remember that toggle button, the upper portion of the view button, will only go between Form View and Layout View right now. So we'll have to use the bottom portion to switch into Design View. In Design View, we can start arranging these fields however we want. So let's go ahead and move this photo field, and I'm going to move it independently of the label. I'm going to use this handle in the upper left-hand corner, and I'm just going to drag, put it in the upper right-hand corner, and then make it a little bit bigger here. Then I'm going to take the employee ID number and drag that over here to the right. The name is going to come up here next to the photo. And notice I'm individually dragging these. I'm not taking the labels with it. A lot of times the labels are just redundant. It's going to be pretty obvious that this is a name. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit bigger here. Title, I'll place that below our name. And let's go ahead and move it independently. It's not letting me move it over because the title label is actually right up against the edge if I don't move it independently. So that's why it looks like I'm getting kind of stuck here. In fact, let's just go ahead and get rid of the label altogether. I'll click this and move it back. It was putting the title underneath the photo, so I couldn't click on it there. I'll select the title and just delete these extra labels here that I don't need. In fact, I think I'm going to delete all of them except for the address one. And I'll leave the bio as well, I suppose. Okay, so I'll just delete those labels here. And now it'll give me a little bit more freedom to move these where I want. So again, at any point you want to see the results of your layout changes here, switch our view back into form view, and we can view it with data. We can page through the different records using the buttons here on the bottom. And that's looking like a pretty good start to our form. So let's go ahead and save it here. I can either use the save icon up here or press Control-S on my keyboard. And I'm going to call this employees here. Go ahead and say OK to that. So that'll save our form down here in the navigation pane. If I scroll down, I can see it's right there. So that's a good start on our form. We'll continue working on this in the next movie. Forms that are going to be displaying data will need to get connected to a data source of some variety. By using a query, we're able to pull information out of multiple related tables at once in order to display it into a single form. Writing out the query will allow us to have a flexible way to double-check that the records that it's returning are the ones that we want to display when we're using our form.